Greetings and welcome to Partaker, where today we're going to be looking at the character of Anton Boisen. Boisen is most famously known as being the founder of modern CPE, or Clinical Pastoral Education. However, I want to be looking more particular about his topic of the living human document, which he is a theme he founded, as well as how it's grounded in scripture, and it's excellent for chaplaincy, but also for ministerial practices out there. Anton Boisen's story is quite remarkable. He lived from 1876 to 1965, and he experienced multiple psychotic breaks throughout his life. In 1920, he was hospitalized for severe mental illness. The Association of Clinical Pastoral Education states that Boisen's time as a psychiatric patient was a turning point that later shaped his theology and the birth of Clinical Pastoral Education, also known as CPE. Boisen started ministering to his fellow patients. You see, there wasn't a strong clergy presence in the hospitals, in the thick of the suffering. This all began at Worcestershire State Hospital, where Boisen began ministering to other patients from inside the ward. You see, Boisen observed that many patients seemed to be undergoing profound inner spiritual crises. Boisen became convinced that some mental illnesses were related to religious experiences and crises of meaning. In his own suffering, that suffering became his classroom. Continuing on with probably Boisen's biggest contribution, and that is the birth of Clinical Pastoral Education. You see, from his experiences, Boisen developed the first CPE program in 1925. Stephen Wojtowicz writes that Boisen believed ministers must study living human documents, real people in crisis, just as seriously as they study scripture. You see, for Boisen, the hospital was a laboratory of the soul. Patients were not case numbers. They were texts to be read with reverence. This idea grew into the modern model of supervised clinical ministry that nearly every chaplain in America undergoes today. And CPE from Boisen would be birthed from that term, the living human document, a phrase that means the human person, especially the suffering person, is a text revealing spiritual, psychological, and relational truth. One must read them with care. See, recent scholarship reinforces this. Gulo explains that Boisen saw each person, patient, as a unique revelation of divine human struggle, requiring deep listening, empathy, and interpretive skill. To understand a patient, a chaplain must attend to their story, interpret their emotional and spiritual cues, understand their worldview, and recognize the sacredness of their suffering. This is not merely psychological work. It is indeed theological work. The goal here at Partaker is not to just speak about clinical or medicinal things. No, the goal here is to speak from a biblical foundation. See, I strongly think that Boisen's idea closely aligns with Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan, found in Luke chapter 10. See, the priest and Levite saw a man in crisis, but did not stop long enough to read him. The Samaritan, in contrast, read the man as a living document. He saw his condition. He was moved with compassion. He physically approached him. He interpreted his needs, and he responded with concrete care. This is the exact posture required of chaplains. The Samaritan did not what Boisen later asked of all pastoral caregivers, which is to read human suffering as sacred text. Now the question you may be having is, how can this apply to my ministry? Perhaps you're not working in chaplaincy, but there's a lot to learn from chaplaincy that you can apply to your local pastoral or ministerial ministry that you have. And it just boils down to these simple things that chaplains, the goal is to read people first and not just judge them. But of course, as Christians, scripture-driven compassion must be applied to all contexts, though. And people in these sensitive situations, we're called to respect their boundaries, but of course, remain faithful to Christ and the teachings of Scripture. And although we may not agree entirely on Boisen's legacy, it does continue to live on in modern clinical areas. Thank you.